Hi everyone, my name's Hirsch and I work at Dataiku as the head of banking and FS in the UK. So today I have the pleasure of moderating a panel discussion with three of our very own customers. We're going to talk about their data journeys, how they use advanced analytics, data science in the organization, and then the hot topic of the day, responsible AI. So welcome to the stage, Timo from Mercedes-Benz, Denis from Credit Suisse, and Brian from Vodafone. Okay, so let's start with you, Timo. You've been at Mercedes-Benz for nearly 10 years. Tell us about the data journey that you've experienced.
Right. Thanks for having us here again. And this is quite a bit bigger than last year in London. And thanks for being here and having this discussion with us today. 10 years, yes, I think that's a pretty good time span to talk about the topic of a data journey. And 10 years ago, we were on a data journey already, but we would never call it a data journey at that time. It was still the times of BI and the times of, okay, how can I improve my business with numbers? And I'm from the finance department in Mercedes-Benz cars, so working with figures was always at the heart of our business. But also, it was not really living up to the expectations. It was not delivering what we wanted it. And then in 2015 around, I would say, there was a time when there was really a change for us big companies to really employ all the new technologies and software, but also methodologies. And also a time when I was in China as a finance manager, operations, where I said, enough, we have to change, we have to get better. 95% of our time we were just crunching numbers, copying Excel files, making PowerPoints, not adding too much value. And then we said, okay, data and analytics is one of the core topics for the finance department. And I changed my career as well. I did a lot of self-learning and I created a data team there. And since then, it's really a data journey. So the last 4 or 5 years really is one for us. And today, maybe I skip to what's happening right now. We're training our top executives in topics of AI and good practices of data management. And I think we've come a long way, but there's still quite a lot more to do.
It's a common theme we're seeing. A lot of people are changing their career paths to data analytics. Denis, you've been at Credit Suisse for coming up to...
About 3 years.
3 years. So it'd be good to hear your take on how your data journey has been there.
Yeah, so I work in Swiss Universal Bank, which is one of the large divisions of Credit Suisse, focused on Swiss market. And data and reporting and data analytics been at the core of banking forever, because that's what banks do. They use data kind of in day-to-day business. However, when I joined the organization about 3 years ago, there was when it comes to machine learning, artificial intelligence methods, there were kind of pockets of people who were doing it, using it maybe for CRM type of analytics or sales management. And they were more or less independently doing the kind of data pipelines, the analytics delivery to their stakeholders. And we wanted to scale it and enable more people within the organization to take advantage of these methods. So we introduced, from IT side, we introduced a few services which we believe enable people to within broader organization. So on one hand, we did what we call an analytics lab, and that's where Dataiku plays a significant role. And this is a service aimed at data scientists in different business functions to effectively do their job. So we give them access to tools, to data. Being a Swiss bank, we're quite serious about protecting our client information. So there's a whole security framework around it to make sure they get access to data on need-to-know principle. So then they free to explore and deliver value to their stakeholders. But when it comes to operationalizing analytics and embedding them into business processes, we introduce another service, which we call Analytics Factory. And that's where we kind of take a more software development lifecycle approach to taking what people develop in the lab and then industrializing it and making sure we can run it operationally on day-to-day basis. It's reliable, it's secure, it's predictable. And then we also found business units who don't have their own data scientists and who may not be as aware about how to use these methods. So we start providing kind of consulting services to them and say, okay, let's talk about your processes, let's understand what you do, and see how analytics can help. And this is scaling reasonably well. But it's a journey, and I think we kind of only starting on it now.
So all three of you work for very different industries, and Brian, you've been at Vodafone now for coming up to 5 years. So it'd be great to hear your take on your data journey, but also what unique challenges do you think your industry is facing compared to others?
Well, I think I'd summarize our journey in 2 words: acceleration and scale. That's something you guys in the audience will relate to, I'm sure. Being able to scale out data analytics and machine learning across thousands of people, because it can't be centralized anymore. It's got to be democratized. We can't keep up with the generation of insights by centralizing. The factory models I have a lot of sympathy for, but the factory models can produce maybe the standard data structures, the standard models, but that's then got to be rolled out. And I work for an operations division of Vodafone, technology shared services. So I'm an operator. Okay, that's in my DNA. And being able to roll out the data management capabilities, analytics, and machine learning to large scale, a variety of people, and we work in. And this is common not only in telco, but a lot of other industries. We work in a very autonomous way. So each of our opcos in every country operates in a different way, okay? What our sort of challenge is creating enough standardization that's flexible enough that they can then actually adopt data analytics and machine learning at scale. So I guess our problem, common to pretty much most industries. I think telco's often very regionalized. So we find that that creating of common frameworks, etc., can be quite hard, but it's worth investing in. And I think that's one of the key messages, I think, is it's worth investing in being able to create some degree of commonality, being able to create common sort of data catalogs, common model catalogs, common templates for data pipelines, and then being able to allow folks to be able to use those in a self-service type fashion.
And I guess I could ask the same to you, Timo. For me, you work in a very cool industry, I'd say, working for Mercedes-Benz. What would you take on this? How is it different for your industry?
I mean, the finance department. I'm not sure if this is still so cool,
That's
but
true.
It's still. I would agree. It's a cool industry very much, especially at the time when this industry is in a huge transition. And actually, the finance department might be the most interesting place in these times. So maybe if from outside it doesn't look so interesting, but who has to prepare all the big investment decisions for the future? Who's steering the business towards electromobility, autonomous driving, and sharing and connectivity, all these big buzzwords, but it really means a fundamental change for how we run our business. And this is the finance department organizing that. But this sums it up for me is change. Really, that this industry at this moment in time, 10 years it was different, 10 years ago it was different, now is that this industry is changing, which is also a great opportunity for us to now deploy all these technologies and bring them into our business. It's a window of opportunity for really bringing our organization to a new level on how we deal with data and analytics. Okay,
so you're talking about this change, and I'm sure you appreciate it can be quite hard sometimes to get non-technical folk to use data in their day-to-day business. So if you could carry on, how do you tackle that challenge?
Right. No, I think this is my job basically to organize that. My task is not only to have a small center of very high-skilled people that then roll out some solutions to everybody. We also do that for some very complicated ones, but enablement is really at the core of what we do. So this is also why our data analytics workbench, which is based on Dataiku, is in the center of that, as it brings together the business users just take a normal finance and controlling guy that has to make predictions on cash flow or any of these things. And this person has been doing this for years with very bad tools for that purpose. And now we can actually connect this person to bigger data sources and also with some experts and a flexible platform to organize this. And this is not only a couple of guys, this is like thousands of them. How do we bring them really collaboratively on the same platform and make them more efficient? So this is what we say is augmenting the human intelligence. So it's not about artificial intelligence in my specific business. It's not huge quantities of data. It's more about how to augment the human in there and make this person more effective.
No, I totally agree. I think we all here believe it. I think should be human-centered. So, Dennis, same for you. In the bank, how are you enabling non-tech savvy people in the business to use data in their day-to-day operations?
I think what Timo said, the word enablement is key here. And kind of the way you pose in the question, they're not tech-savvy, but they need to be data-savvy, they need to understand the data, and in most cases people do, because they use data on day-to-day basis to work on specific maybe process or topic, and they already have a lot of data, but it may be in spreadsheets or some other way, or they may have data but not using them. And enabling means kind of educating them about what can be done with this data. It can be simple descriptive analytics, so it can be, I don't know, building simple classification model to automate a part of a business process, or doing things like that. But you need to educate people, and I'm going to repeat what Timo said in terms of building teams of experts, because you need a subject matter expert from the business side, but you may need a data scientist who can do technical work, and you may need a data engineer to help them bring data together. I think getting access to data is important, and I think we share all the same challenge that data is everywhere, and at the same time people are quite data poor sometimes. So enabling people to have access to meaningful data which is of reasonable quality and understood by them is also important. But this is the only way to scale, is to enable people in the business to apply these methods. It cannot be done in a silo in a center of excellence or analytics or something like that.
And what about yourself, Brian? You work within an operations function, so very different to Dennis and Timo. How are you enabling the non-tech savvy, or as Dennis better puts it, data savvy personas in the business to use data in their day-to-day lives?
We take a very straightforward approach, which is we align it to outcomes every time. Okay, we start with the end user, with the persona. Okay, we try and work out what that person's trying to achieve, how they're trying to achieve it, and then we work through the cycle of data analytics and machine learning. Okay, so have we got the data? Okay, have we got the foundation analytics? So, for example, one of our sort of value propositions for analytics is service assurance. You know, are all the operational analytics in place for those operators to be able to understand whether their service is running right, could it be improved, you know, and then moving through to what would they ideally want to be able to do, therefore what data analytics and machine learning can we deploy to make their working day better. And you know, a classic one is, you know, I want to be able to intervene proactively. I don't want to wait for a service to fail. You know, when a service fails, it's painful, it's terrible. I'm running around like my head's on fire. Okay, well, we've got all this data. Why don't we build a service failure prediction model? Because that's eminently doable. Okay, it's a little hard, okay, but you can do it. What would we then do? How would we make your life easier if we were able to tell you, actually, you're about 30 minutes away from that CRM service failing? Well, I'd intervene proactively. I'd stop it from failing. Cool. Then that's what we'll do. So I think you take it on that journey of outcomes, value. Okay, I love the idea of enablement, and I love the idea of augmenting people with data analytics and machine learning. You'll never fundamentally replace all operations, and you certainly won't replace subject matter experts who know their operational domain better than pretty much anybody else will ever. But you will be able to augment them massively and reduce pain and drive efficiency. Now, efficiency, everyone thinks, ooh, efficiency, that means headcount reduction. That means lots of people going on the unemployment line. No, efficiency means less effort in terms of incident management, running around with your head on fire, more effort on problem management, root cause analysis, and fundamental defect fixing. Okay, that's the efficiency. You shift the effort round. The people are still, and we were talking about this earlier, the people are still a fundamental part of the process, but you get the right data, you get the right analytics, the right machine learning, and then the right automation, so that you actually take the pain out of their day jobs.
Today we're discussing basically how this will come together, like augmenting whatever. This will be a no-brainer in a couple of years, like maybe 10 or 20 years, when this topic is so normal that you don't see it anymore, basically. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think the discussion is still going on, but it will be solved for sure, and the human will be in there. And
the discussion we had earlier was about the journey, okay? And you'll notice in my title it says autonomics. So very much, I'm tasked with an end goal, which is services that will be self-configuring, self-healing, self-operating to all intents and purposes. And obviously that'll devastate our operational headcount. No, it won't, because all our people will then be doing far higher value tasks, and people naturally evolve when you give them tools. Okay, and when you give them tools to automate, they naturally evolve to higher value tasks. And that's what, certainly the three of us were talking about in terms of that's our aspiration as individuals, which is to give people the tools, to give people the data, the analytics, the machine learning, the automation that allows their tasks, their day jobs, their lives to be more valuable.
I'd like to know if anyone else has autonomics in their title in here. I doubt it. Denis, so Brian's quite nicely explained also how his team itself is using data science analytics as well as others. What about for you?
So I work with stakeholders in many different functions across the bank, and kind of what has been happening for quite a few years already. People use it for CRM type of analytics, trying to understand where the clients are in their life cycle and what products or services will be beneficial for them at that point. I think the difference we make between how it was happening over the last few years and how we're doing it now is that we give this information not just to the hands of few sales management people or relation management people, but we also use it to personalize client experience. And I think someone was talking about it earlier in the conference. We live in the era when these methods allow us to really target the segment of one and understand where you are as a client in your journey and what would be helpful for you today. So there is a lot of focus on that in terms of using analytics, but also omnichannel is a big topic. As a bank, we have many different touch points with the clients, starting with relationship managers, online banking, private website, call center, etc. And we want to make sure that we are consistent and we understand the client through these interactions, because traditionally they were kind of more self-sufficient, but with a lot of digitalization and automation, clients start to interact with the bank through different points, and it's important that we're consistent in messaging and in understanding the clients. So that's kind of on the client-facing side. And then on the operations side, it's similar to what Brian was describing. It's driving service efficiency and automating things where humans don't add much value, and repurposing people to do more interesting, more value-adding work. Again, kind of back-to-back or front-to-back automation is a big topic, and machine learning plays quite a big role in it.
So Timo, your role slightly differs in terms of you sit within finance, as you mentioned. so a real business function. How is data science impacting business decisions within finance?
So there's two levels for this. One is we build a specific use case or solution, and this has an impact then, the outcome of this solution. And the other one is the people that actually, our finance people that now are exposed to this topic. So the first one, as you can imagine, lots of predictions and forecasting that helps the people to do it quicker and more accurately to predict what's going to happen. For me personally, the most interesting stuff is not that, but it's actually optimizations. When we have a business problem, we want to optimize it. Very often the problem is the data quality and lots of issues around data management. And some of us, we are called data and analytics, and sometimes the data part can also be really valuable for the business outcomes. So giving some key functions a tool to manage the data quality in a guided way, and in the back end everything is stored nicely and is then ready to be used, can be really, really valuable for business decisions, because then you have a full set of data there, and then you can actually make, from pricing to other things, can make really good decisions. And secondly, on the people side, one of my major jobs is to offer training. So we have a comprehensive training program that is being rolled out currently to really data scientists, data engineer, data analyst roles that are created newly from normal finance and controlling people, but also managers, and this includes our top management. So we reach a lot of people via these hands-on trainings where they all have to solve machine learning problems hands-on themselves, doesn't matter how high level they are, even C-level. And that basically means they get something that they have an ability to have a better understanding of these kind of situations. They cannot necessarily do everything themselves later, but they have touched it already. And I think that makes for better business decisions when it comes to big amounts of data and very complex problems.
And Brian, in terms of an operations perspective, how is data science used for business decisions?
It's starting to fundamentally change our operating model. Okay, because we're looking at different ways of getting systems and people to interact in more meaningful ways. So we've mentioned that machine learning is essential to automation. Now, a lot of people would go, that's not the case. You don't need to use machine learning for automation at all. If you want to automate intelligently, and if you want the interaction between systems and people to be more meaningful, then I would argue that machine learning is fundamental and is a fundamental building block of good, high-quality automation, meaningful automation. So I would say, basically, as we go on this journey of gathering data about our own operations, we're an operations division, big operations division, global operations division, we actually start to change ourselves. Not only do we surface that data to our people, so that they can make meaningful business decisions. But when we look at it in the round, we fundamentally start to look at our operational organization and look at major opportunities for transformation, albeit incremental transformation. So it fundamentally changes you. As soon as you get into this journey, you start to change. And I think we've all mentioned the aspects of change that it actually generates.
That's great to hear. So I think everyone is talking about responsible AI at the moment. It's the hottest, most talked about area within artificial intelligence, machine learning, the whole ethical aspect. Denis, I'd love to hear your point of view on this.
Well, I think AI is a tool, and it doesn't fundamentally change responsibility of the companies to be responsible. But it creates new challenges in maintaining this responsibility. We're talking about automation a lot, and some of the decision making which the systems make sometimes hard to explain, and explainability is a big topic. And sometimes the choice of the method to embed is done based on explainability, because if you're gonna recommend something to a person or you're gonna make a decision, they may, well, first of all, you might need to make sure you're not creating unfair biases in the system without maybe not even realizing it. because you may not understand what the system is doing. And then you need to be able to explain to your clients, to the regulators, why you're making decisions in a certain way. So that's certainly, I think, a big problem, especially for financial institutions to be able to solve, but I think for other industries, equally important. Yeah, so I think that's kind of what a lot of organizations are starting to struggle with or try to find solutions to.
For sure. And Brian, do you have any other opinions to add to that?
I think I would agree wholeheartedly. I think AI is a tool. It's a series. It's a toolbox, and making systems that seem to be intelligent. That's fine. Making systems that are self-aware, whoa, don't go there, okay? Never go there. Never try and build Skynet. But let's be honest, we've gone on the journey of creating more and more seemingly intelligent tools, okay? We're useful and we're good at evolving, okay, and using these tools. It's the nature of humanity. AI and the tools that come with AI, it's just the next generation of tools. It's as simple as that. It's never going to replace the Mark I human.
Where do you see the future? What excites you? What's next?
So what really excites me is building up the team, basically. So it already took us 2 years or so to really ramp up a data team that has everything that we need to work. So we have data consultants and that are the bridge to the business that can code themselves and work in the teams. We have data scientists, engineers, we have IT, we have solution architects, we have designers and people for communications and trainings and so on. So that took a lot of work, and for me it feels like now I can rest or something, because bringing them together and making a team out of them was really lots of work, but actually now the real work is starting, because now we have to integrate this topic into the whole organization, and because now we have these skills and we have the technologies, now actually the real challenge of changing our processes and making them better and redesigning them, thinking them from data and not thinking them from a business unit or from a customer, but really thinking how can we make that better is a huge chance. And now actually the hard work really starts. But I'm also really excited because now we can get more stuff on the road quickly, and there's already lots of things coming out. We can celebrate that stuff. So I'm me personally looking very much forward to all of this.
Like Brian mentioned, it's about scale now, right? And Brian, what's your view? What excites you?
Well, I've been sort of hanging around. You can tell I've got some age, but I've been hanging around since university to really do some serious damage with AI, and I mean that in a positive fashion, okay? Because even when I was fighting dinosaurs with pointy sticks, largely the capabilities had been defined. The algorithms had largely been defined, but we didn't have the storage and compute power. So now that that's unlocked, and a perfect place to take a lot of these capabilities to the cloud. So now that it's been unlocked by cloud technology and cloud platforms, we're looking at, and I'm glad I'm still here. We're looking at being able to actually apply this to do real business transformation, and that gets me out of bed in the morning.
What about you, Dennis? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, this definitely resonates. I'm having weekly discussions with different business units about what machine learning or other analytical methods can do for them. And sometimes it's very simple things. Yes, it is transforming business, but you don't have to declare, okay, we're going to transform business tomorrow.
Yeah, it's incremental.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
It kind of starts with small things, and then people realize, oh, we can do that. Oh, this is wonderful. And then once they get a sense of it, they start coming back to us and saying, and what about this use case? Can we do that as well? And do you have a method for this? And how are we going to embed it into our business process? And that's what kind of gets me out of bed in the morning as well. It's helping people to realize the opportunity and then become self-sufficient, enable them, and kind of get the best out of it. Yeah.
But then how are you managing the expectations with what comes with that?
Yeah, that's a good point, because people have lots of ideas, and everyone wants to do it, like today or yesterday. So being able to understand kind of the impact which use cases will make and prioritize accordingly is important as well, because you cannot do everything. So you need to manage expectations, you need to manage your book of work, but that's not different with AI or ML than with any other projects. As an organization, you need to set your priorities.
There are a lot of people who think that machine learning is quite auto-magical. So, I've got lots of managers who just need educating, and I think a common theme that we've had today is about change and education. Yeah. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen, even in the tech industry, as to the opportunities and the application.
We have the same thing that people think like, okay, this is some art form and magic. And what I like to tell them is that in data science, there is so much manual work involved. And then they're like, wait a minute, I thought this is the opposite of manual work that you had before. Actually, there's lots of repetitive stuff involved there. And we are starting to automate that. So that means like we are also on the topic of efficiency of our own people, the repetitive stuff we are also automating. Actually, you can go to a session later, we call the forecasting engine that my colleague Lucas will present here later on a much technical, deeper level, if you're interested. But what it does, it's basically taking away many steps that always repeating for one specific problem that we always have, which is time series data and finance, and automating that complete thing. So fully agree with you.
And Timo, you do a lot around training and education. Do you have any tips that you could give to all the audience here of how you're helping?
Sure. I mean, there is so many great training providers out there, and all of them are good, and I use them myself and so on. But for especially bigger organizations that also have lots of IT standards for very good reasons, what you need to make sure is that whatever training you provide to your people is 100% applicable when they come back to their desk. Yeah. In terms of tools, in terms of rules, policies, standards, whatever it is. Otherwise, they get frustrated, lost, and then there's churn. So that's why we not only we outsource, get them in and provide something, but we really customize what we do for the tool set that we have and for the rules and also the mindset and wording and everything. So when people finish the trainings, they can exactly work in that same environment. And that works really well. That I can give you as a tip.
Yeah, I think this is very important. It needs to really resonate with people and speak their language. So if you kind of roll out a standard training program about machine learning, etc., people go and say, yeah, this is nice, this is interesting, but what does it do for me? So you need to kind of point it and say, this is how you could apply it. So it's almost kind of training together with consulting or strategy development.
And guidance. Those people have a million questions once they learn something new, including me. I had the same. So then you need to really make time for guiding and consulting them, and that's really valuable. Although it really takes away from like very talented like data scientists that want to work on a model or something, but they actually train and educate some people is really valuable. And I always encourage the people that this is great, and please do more of that.
And that's how you create the scale as well, because by empowering people, by consulting to them, by giving up your time to go and talk to them about how they can use the tools and achieve self-service, that's how you actually achieve the scale. We've all agreed you can't centralize all of this in one place. It actually has to be distributed. It has to be distributed because it's becoming pervasive, and therefore we have to be able to operate at scale.
Very interesting views on some very interesting topics. I know now it's time for lunch, so once you do grab some food, please feel free to go over to the three of these to carry on the conversation. But we'd like to thank you for your views. It's been really interesting. Hopefully you all found it useful. Thank you.